Hello, I'm Jimmy Johnson from the Education Center. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Ohm's Law. Right here you can see the Ohm's Law wheel. There's a lot going on, but let me break it down simply. Restarting. Here you see the Ohm's Law wheel. Now I know it looks like a lot's going on, but once you break it down, it actually turns out, Here you see the Ohm's Law wheel. There's a lot going on, but let's break it down. The Ohm's Law wheel is separated into 4 sections. Now there are many different versions of this Ohm's Law wheel. They could have there are 4 sections in any order, and they could even call them different things. No particular order. Let's talk about amps on the top left. So amps is usually written out as I or even A, sometimes written out as intensity. For what we're worrying about today, they're all going to be considered the same thing. Next, for volts, or just V, maybe even written out as E for electromotive force. All going to be the same thing for us today. Power on the bottom left is going to usually be written out as a P or a VA for volt amps. Very different than volts, very different than amps. It's a volt amp. It's a combination of the two. And finally, resistance or ohm. So if you're looking for any piece of information, let's say we're looking for E. What you're going to do is you're going to look in this section. So you have that E right there. We're going to say, hey, it's going to be in this little section. So the way this works out is if you have any 2 pieces of information, you can find any of the other 2. So particularly, if I was looking for my volts and I had power and I had amps, I would use this formula right here. If I had power and resistance, I would use this formula on the top. And finally, if I had amps and resistance, I would use that 3rd section. And that's how it's going to work for every section in the pie. Whatever you're looking for is going to be this inner circle. It's what you're looking for. And then if you have any 2 pieces of information, you're going to use the outer circle to find your formula. So let's go right into it. I'm just going to start with this one because we have our voltage. So what is a voltage of a circuit that has 10 ohms resistance and 1,440 watts or power? That's a good point to put this in. Starting over. Now we're going to start with voltage. So what is the voltage of a circuit that has 10 ohms and 1,440 watts? Watts is another way they could just say power. As far as we're concerned right now, they're all going to be the same thing. So 10 ohms, 1,400 watts. So we're looking in this yellow section up here, and I see, hey, if I have watts or power and I have ohms or resistance, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I can use. So E is going to equal the square root of P times R. or the square root of 1,440 times 10. Whenever you have something like this, you're going to take care of what's on the inside of the square root first. Let's see, 1,440 times 10. Moving the 0 over a bit. Takes care of that right there. And then hit the square root button. E is going to equal 120 volts. Easy enough? Because again, 1,440 times 10, and then square root. Oops. Redoing that. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Gotta clear this. Technical difficulties, Daniel. Cool. So, redoing this. So once you clear this out, 1,440 times 10 equals 1,440. Hit the square root button. Bam, you're right at 120. Clear that out. Let's look at another. So what is the wattage of a current? So right now I'm looking for wattage, so I'm going to be looking down here. That has 12 amps and 120 volts. All right, well, that's going to be power equals amps and volts. I see amps and I see volts. This is what we're going to use right here. So power equals E times I, or power equals 120 times 12. $14.40. Now we're looking at another. What is the current of a circuit with 120 volts and 10 ohms? So now I'm looking for my current. Is it a typo? Oh, never mind. All right, starting over. Now what is my current? 120 volts and 10 ohms. Current is just another way of saying amps. Of 120 volts, 10 ohms. So I'm going to have my voltage, or my E. So I know it's going to be one of these two. And then I'm also going to have my resistance. So I know it's going to be this one down here. So I equals E divided by R. So I is going to equal 120 divided by 10. Just to remove a 0, but just to show y'all. 120 divided by 10. Boop, right at 12. I equals 12. Amps, 12 current, whatever you want to call it. Finally, I have my resistance, a piece of resistance. Oh, take that out. That was a bad joke. Piece de la resistance. Ha ha ha, Daniel. Ha ha. Okay, take all that out. All right. Finally, we have our resistance. If a circuit is going to have, so we're looking for ohms, we have 12 amps, and we have 120 volts. So we're looking over here in our resistance. We have amps. So it's either going to be this or it's going to be this. And I have 120 volts. Boom, there's my E right there. The R equals E divided by I. Or R equals 120 divided by 12. 10 ohms. It's just as easy as that. One thing to note, you can tell here that this is actually, all four of these questions come from the same circuit. It's four different ways of asking a very similar question from the same circuit. So the volts is always, it's a 120 volt circuit. There's 10 ohms, there's going to be 12 amps, and 1,440 watts. These are all the different ways you could have went through here. You can take your time and you can practice any of these other questions on here. When it comes to Ohm's Law, you don't need tougher questions. All that you need is to understand the fundamentals, the basics, and plug and play. I hope this was helpful.